Hi, and welcome to Come Play with Meeples. My name is Joe, and today we are continuing our playthrough of the Devourer Below. In our first part, Rex and Agnes have already begun to explore the woods looking for clues regarding this ritual that is going on in the woods. They haven't found it yet, but they have found some clues leading to it. We are still in Agenda 1 and Act 1. Will they be able to stop this ritual in time? I'm excited to find out, so let's get started. Hi, and welcome back. So I realized I forgot to discard dissident voices at the end of the round on the last playthrough. So we'll discard that now. And now we go to the Mythos phase. So once again, we add one more clue to the agenda, one more, and the agenda will advance. Rex gets a card here, and it is Ravenous Ghouls. So Prey is the one with the lowest health remaining. Taking a look here, they're both at 6. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to assign that to Agnes. Because if she takes a sanity, she'll also do damage as part of her ability. She's got the shriveling here, and she has another one ready to go. So she'll be a bit more of a fighter again this round. Plus, I want Rex available to start looking for the last 2 clues to advance the act. So Agnes's card is Grasping Hands. Test agility 3. For each point you fail by, take 1 damage. So her default is 3. She doesn't really have another card to help other than that lucky if she fails. So we're going to go with that. 3 to 3. She pulls the skull. And the skull is the number of monster enemies in play. Well, there's 1. 2. I guess that's a reason for not to have the ghoul minion there. However, now she will play. So she had a skill of 3, minus 2 is 1 to a test of 3. But she is going to play Lucky, Fast, play when you would fail a skill test, gain +2 to your skill value for that test. So she's going to spend the resource. That pushes her back to 3, and she passes the Grasping Hands. Now we can get on to the investigator phase. So for this round, I'd really like to know if we're going to get rid of this Ravenous Ghoul first. So I'm going to have Agnes go first, and she is going to use her shriveling spell. So she's going to use a charge, and that lets her use her willpower instead of her might. And then she deals +1 damage. However, if she pulls one of those symbols during the attack, she has to take a horror. So now we've got a skill of 5 to a test of 3. She pulls a 0. So she passed, hits him for 2. For her second action, she's going to use the shriveling spell again, mainly because I want her to use her willpower instead of her might. So again, it's 5 to 3. She pulls -1, hits him for 2 more. But he only has 3 health, so he's now gone. And now for her third action, I think we should get her back to the main path. And that finishes her turn. So now for Rex's turn, we're going to have him start digging into the woods again. So he's going to move to this woods here. I'm going to flip the card. It's got a Shroud of 2, and we'll have 2 clues. This location is investigated using your agility instead of the skill indicated by the investigation attempt. So that's not good. He's got all prepared for investigating. So for his second action, he's just going to go with that. He's got a skill of 3 for the evade against a test of 2. And he pulls -2, so he failed that. So for his third action, he's just going to do that again. And he pulls the skull. The skull is the amount of enemies in play. There's only 1, so that makes his skill 2 to a shroud of 2, so he does get 1 clue. That ends his turn. Once again, we go to the enemy phase. Only the ghoul minion is here. He can't move. So now we go to the upkeep phase. So we reset. Everybody gets a card and a crate. And Rex first pulls his expose weakness. And Agnes pulls her good wither spell. This has 4 pips on it, so this is her better one. I'm going to want to get that one down fairly quickly here. So now we go to the Mythos phase. The agenda gets another one. That's now 4/4, so that is going to advance. So we flip it over, and it says, "Death to the intruders." Throughout the woods, a shrieking cry echoes. From somewhere deep in the forest, a score of hideous voices answer the call, inhuman as the baying of hounds, and yet articulate, repeating a singular name. Umbereth, Umbereth, Umbereth. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck and discard cards from the top until a monster enemy is discarded. Spawn the enemy at the main path, then place 1 doom on that enemy. Now we have to shuffle this. I'll just do that off camera. And we are to discard until we find a monster. So it's not a monster. There's a monster. We just defeated him actually. And he is to go at the main path. So then Agnes is there, so he's going to automatically attach to Agnes. So then we go to Agenda 2, the ritual begins. Umbereth, Umbereth, Umbereth. The chanting builds in intensity, echoing into the cold air of the night. The sparse clouds in the sky coalesce above the Arkham woods, blotting out the faint light of the stars. Each enemy gets +1 fight and +1 evade. Now Rex gets an encounter card, and he gets the Dissonant Voices. Put voices into play in your threat area. You cannot play assets or events. At the end of the round, discard Dissonant Voices. And Agnes gets Umbereth's Wrath. And I really hope I'm pronouncing that name right. So here she has to test her willpower 5. For each point you fill at, you must either choose 1, choose and discard a card from your hand, or take 1 damage and 1 horror. So since she has a skill of 5 to a test of 5, I'm going to use the symbol here to make it 6 to 5. On second thought, I'm going to put this back because the thing is I would have to choose and discard a card from my hand. For each point you fail, you must choose a card to discard from your hand, so then I could just discard that one as my first one. It doesn't make much sense to use it there. Rex can't help her because they're not in the same location. It's simply going to be a test of 5 to 5. She pulls a 0. It's a good thing we didn't waste that card. She actually did pass that test. And we can head back to the investigator phase. So for this investigator phase, I think once again I'm going to get Agnes to go first, because once again she's got the Ravenous Ghoul there. I'm hoping the 2 hits with the Shriveling spell will take him out, and then she'll have enough resources to get her Wither spell down and be ready for the next round. So for her first round, she'll use the Shriveling spell. Oh, but the thing is, it's +1 fight for every enemy now, according to the agenda there. So he's actually got a skill of, he's got a test of 4 to a skill of 5. So I think because I really want to make sure that I hit him, now would be the time to play this one. So we'll make it 6 to 4. And got the +1 anyway. So that is 2 hits onto the Ravenous Ghoul. So now she will do it again. But this time it's only 5 to 4. Pulls out the cultist. The cultist says -2 and place 1 doom on the nearest enemy. So there'll be 1 doom on him. And she failed that test. And now she's in trouble. The only thing she can now do is try to evade him. Actually, she has another option. She could do something completely else. And then the Ravenous Ghoul will get an attack of opportunity. So he's going to hit her with a health and a sanity. But when she takes a horror, sorry, I just called it sanity. But when she takes a horror, then she can place 1 doom on an enemy and get rid of him, which I think is what she's going to do, just to get rid of him. So then she could basically have a action where she does anything that she wants. And I think what she wants to do is get that Wither spell down. So she's going to play 2 resources to get the Wither spell down. You can't quite see that. Here, I'll move the Shriveling over, because that one has no charges left on it. So because she did that, she does take a damage and a horror. But when she places a horror, she does 1 damage to an enemy, and that now makes him have 3 of 3. So she hit him twice, tried to hit him twice, and played her Shriveling, so that ends her turn. And now we go on to Rex. So for Rex's turn, he's just going to do some investigating again. So once again, he has to use his evade skill of 3 to a test of 2. He has nothing really that he wants to spend on that, or can spend on that. So we're just going to keep investigating until we get it. And he gets it the first time, 3 to 2. So now we do have the 6 clues to advance the act, but since Agnes is done and he's only got 2 more actions this round, I think I'm just going to wait with that. So for his second action, he's going to move back to the main path. And then for his third action, I'm debating getting a resource or another card. But then he's going to get another card at the end of the round. That will make him 8. And if he doesn't have good reason to use them, he's going to start to lose them. So I think we'll just get him a resource for now, because he's going to want those as well. Because I do want to get this physical training down, so it helps to have resources for the future. So that ends his turn. So now we go to the enemy phase. We still only have the ghoul minion, so nothing happens. Now we go to the upkeep phase. Everybody gets a resource and a card. And Rex gets exposed weakness, same as that one there. And Agnes gets arcane studies. So now we will go to the Mythos phase again. So we add 1 doom there. Rex draws a ghoul minion, so that's going to attach to him. And Agnes gets the yellow sign, Revelation. test willpower 4. If you fail, take 2 horror and search your deck for a madness weakness. Draw that card and shuffle your deck. So I'll do this first, but I just realized when I put down the withering spell, she didn't get the effect of her heirloom, so I'll fix that in a moment. So right now she's got a test of 5 to 4. She pulls 0. So she passes that and nothing else happens. So now I'll go back and fix when she put down the withering spell. She had the reaction of after you play a spell card, draw 1 card. So let's see what she got there. She got the Holy Rosary. Now that one I would like to see her get down. All right. And now we go back to the investigator phase. Being at the investigator phase, the first thing I think we're going to do is spend our clues as a free action. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to advance the act. So here it says, unveiling the plan. Scattered throughout the forest, you've seen glyphs and arcane sigils in various places, etched in the bark of trees, carved upon the face of stones, and dripped in blood upon the ground. Though you cannot decipher these glyphs, you notice that most of them tend to face south. Following these signs leads you by twists and turns toward a cave in the darkest and coldest part of the forest. As you advance, shadowy figures emerge from the trees, blocking the only path to the cave. Put the set-aside ritual site into play if it is not already in play. Search the collection for each enemy recorded in your campaign log under cultist who got away and spawn those enemies at the main path. So first it tells us, put the set-aside ritual site into play if it is not already in play. So then here's a ritual site. It connects to the main path. So we'll just put that beside. So then it says to put all the cultists from the Midnight Masks who got away onto the main path, but since we got them all, nobody's going to spawn there. So that brings us to Act 2, Into the Darkness. The remaining cultists have followed you into the woods to try to stop you, and now they block the path to your objective. They stand ominously beneath the overhanging trees, silent sentinels in the night. You must defeat them or sneak past if you are going to gain access to the site of their ritual. Objective: if an investigator enters the ritual site, advance. So now there's no need to find more clues. We just got to try to get to the ritual site. If we wouldn't have defeated all those cultists, they'd be standing in our way at the main path. But since we dealt with them in the Midnight Masks, we have free access to the ritual site. And once again, I forgot to discard dissident voices from the previous round at the end of the round. So first for Rex, he needs to deal with this ghoul minion. So this time we definitely want to kill the ghoul minion instead of evading like we did this one, since he dropped at the main path and just keep coming back. So he is going to use his 45 automatic, because then one shot will kill the ghoul minion. So he'll use one of his ammos, and that means he'll get +1 fist attack, might for this attack, and then deal +1 damage. So that does give him a total fight of 3 to a skill of 2. I want to improve that. So I think Agnes can toss in a card here. And she's going to use this extra withering shriveling spell to make it 4 to 2, since she's already got the wither spell down. And he pulls -1. So that's good. Didn't need to use that extra card, but that's okay. 2 damage to him. That is enough to destroy him. That was his first action. For his second action, I'm thinking he should already get to that ritual site. No, I do want to get that physical training down first. Now I can finally do it. Takes 2 resources. And now for his third action, do I want to go there already? I think so. I think we've got things pretty under control. And Agnes will still get her turn. So let's go to the ritual site. You can flip this card over. So it's got a Shroud of 3. It's going to have 4 clues, and it says, forced. At the end of the round, if there are fewer than 2 clues per investigator on ritual site, add clues to it until it has 2 clues per investigator on it. So that sounds like it's just going to keep regenerating clues, so we can get almost unlimited clues there. Okay, and now we get to advance the act. Very quick advance there. Because we have completed the objective. If an investigator enters the ritual site, advance. So here we have last rites. When you enter the cave, the air grows cold, and your nostrils are assaulted by the pungent smell of blood and rot. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. Discards from the top of the encounter deck until 1 enemy is discarded, 2 enemies instead if there are 3 or more players in the game. Spawn each discarded enemy at the ritual site. So much like last time, we have to shuffle off the encounter deck. Now we draw until we find a monster. Well, there we go. Does that count? One enemy is discarded. Okay, so thankfully just a nice easy acolyte. No, sorry, rereading. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until 1 enemy is discarded. Yep, that's correct then. That's an enemy. And then spawn each discarded enemy at the ritual site. So even though this one tells you to spawn it at an empty location, I do believe the card takes precedence, that the act takes precedence over the enemy card. So that will spawn at the main path, which Agnes is already at, so it's going to spawn right there with a Doom. I feel like we've been very, very lucky throughout this whole campaign. So now we go on to Act 3, Disrupting the Ritual. The site of the cultists' ritual is inside a large cavern in a dark corner of the woods. In the center of the chamber is a candlelit circle marked by rocks and arcane ruins. As an action, spend 1 clue, and then I can test Willpower 3 or Agility 3, and if I succeed, place 1 clue on this act. If there are 2 clues per investigator on this act, advance. So I need to get 4 clues onto that act. So then that was all Rex moving into the ritual site, so he's done. Now Agnes is going to have to deal with this acolyte. And I hope I haven't forgotten it too often, that every enemy is supposed to have +1 fight and +1 evade. I think there was 1 or 2 enemies since then. I think I applied it once and missed the other, but I think we still beat him by enough that we would have still won him. So I need to remember that. So one thing with this game is there's a lot of little rules to have to remember that come and go throughout the scenarios. It's also why I like to play this as a 2-player game, because when you have 2 heads to remember the rules, it works a little bit better. Alright, so for Agnes, she needs to deal with this acolyte, so she is going to use her Wither spell. So if you remember, this lets her use her willpower instead of her might. So that means she's going to have a 5 instead of a 2. And then she also gets +2. So that now makes it 7. Against 3 + 1 is 4. So 7 to 4. And she pulls 0. So that's 1 hit there. But the acolyte only has 1 health. So he's now gone. So for her second action, she's actually going to use it to get another resource. And then she's going to use both of those to play her Holy Rosary. Since this does have the accessory symbol, she already has one there, so she's also going to have to get rid of her heirloom. But I'd rather her have an extra, so now when she fights, it's 8 willpower. So she is definitely going to be the fighter for the rest of this round. So that ends her turn. Now we go to the upkeep phase. Again, this ghoul minion's not going to do anything. So now we go to the upkeep phase. Everybody gets a resource. And a card. So Rex gets Unexpected Courage. 2 wilds is always a good thing. And Agnes gets her baseball bat. This will require both hands, and right now she's got her ritual candles there. So, and since she's already set to use her mental as her fight, I doubt we'll be using that one. That will bring us back to the Mythos phase. So I'm going to end this episode here. I think we've been doing very, very well. There might be one more part to this. So I hope you will join me for that, and come play with meeples.